Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call to order the Town of Ayer Select Board meeting for Tuesday, March 4th, 2025. This meeting/hearing of the Ayer Select Board will be held in person at the location provided on this notice. Members of the public are welcome to attend this in-person meeting. Please note that while an option for remote attendance and/or participation via Zoom is being provided as a courtesy to the public, the meeting/hearing will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt the virtual broadcast, unless otherwise required by law. Members of the public with a particular interest on a specific item on this agenda should make plans for in-person versus virtual attendance accordingly. This meeting will be live on Zoom and Channel 8. The public may access the proceedings by joining Zoom, meeting ID number 978-772-8220, or by calling 929-205-6099. For additional information about remote participation, please contact Carly Antonellis, Assistant Town Manager, at atm@ayer.ma.us or 978-772-8220, extension 100 prior to the meeting. We could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd just like to remind people that are on joining us via Zoom, if you do have a question or want to make a comment, please raise your hand. Any changes to the agenda?
I have none.
I have one, Mr. Chair.
Sure, go ahead, Janice.
Under new business, I'd like to, I didn't put anything, but I'd like to, the hospital.
Okay. Thank you, Janice.
Mm-hmm.
You want to just make a note that
Yes,
she's...
and
okay.
just to note for Board Member Livingston is joining us this evening virtually. Yep. All right. If there's no other changes or amendments, take a motion.
I make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Seconded.
Okay. Board Member Tavares, how do you vote?
Aye.
Board Member Livingston? How do you
Aye.
vote? And the chair votes aye. Agenda is approved as amended. I have two announcements this evening. First announcement is that the Ayer Municipal Aggregation Program will have a public information forum tomorrow, Wednesday, March 5th, 2025 at 6 p.m. at Ayer Town Hall and via Zoom. As authorized by the 2023 Annual Town Meeting, the Town of Ayer's aggregation plan will be rolling out this month for a April-May implementation. All residents, even those with a current third-party supplier, should be getting mailed this week. The sample is on the website. Opt-out date is by March 20th, 2025, and more information can be found at ayer.ma.us/energy. Second announcement is that the Town of Ayer Public Budget Forum will be next Wednesday, March 12th, 2025 at 6 p.m. It'll take place here in the first floor meeting room of the Ayer Town Hall at 1 Main Street. And okay, is there anybody here or online for public input? Okay, not seeing anyone. We'll move ahead to our town planner. Good evening, Danny.
Good evening. All right, you're gonna control the.
Mm-hmm. You want to start here?
Yeah, sure. So hello to everyone. I'm Danny Ruiz. I'm the town planner. So today we are gonna be going through some of the proposed zoning amendments that we have going to the planning board on March 11th. There are 5 zoning proposals that are being presented to the board tonight. The first one is a zoning map amendment. And so for this zoning map amendment, it's updating the, if you want to go to the next page, it's easier to explain this one. So the current parcel that's being shown on the plan on the left is highlighted in red. That's the parcel that's currently owned by the town of Ayer, where the wastewater treatment facility is. that was previously shown as the Devon's Enterprise Zone, but it hasn't been the Devon Enterprise Zone since, I believe, 1970s, sometime in that point when it was sold to the town of Ayer, given back to the town of Ayer from the Army. And on the right-hand side, you can see from the Devon's Enterprise zoning map, they show that the boundary of it is excluded, and so it matches up. So what we wanted to do is just to make sure that the zoning map gets properly updated to show the proper zoning. And so it'll be removed out of the Devon's Enterprise Zone and put into the general residence zone.
Okay.
The next one is the accessory dwelling units. So I'm sure everyone knows that the governor passed a law that made accessory dwelling units by right. So what we're proposing here is just to remove the section that it currently sits in under section 5.3.2C, accessory dwelling units. So everything that was in that that section of the bylaw is going to be removed, and what's going to be added is what's up there on the in the slide. Those 4 points. The previous one, which I believe is in your packets, you can see the previous bylaw. There was about 12 different points that it went through. What we added here is a definition based. So an accessory dwelling unit is allowed by right in all single-family residential zoning districts, just to follow what the state, the draft state regulations are for accessory dwelling units. And then number 2 is just what all the base requirements are under that state regulation as well. Just so that if anyone ever references our bylaw, they'll also, they won't have to go to CMR 760 CMR 71 to, really get the details of what the requirements are. And we reference it in there as well, just in case anyone does want to. But the main 3 points in there are the requirements that come out of the passing of the law. Number 3 is, so accessory dwelling units shall only be subject to a building permit process. Some towns have been possibly looking at other options of implementing maybe site plan review or other processes of a review, but this is just a building permit process, I believe, at this point it should be, and the building inspector, building commissioner also agrees with us. It's going to promote increase of housing, rental housing that will help a lot more people, and it'll increase affordability in the town as well. So it just makes the process a little bit more streamlined. And then number 4 is the multiple ADUs on the same lot. So that requires a special permit. That's what is written in the draft state regulations. So if you want multiple ADUs on a lot, you have to go through the special permit process. And as part of that, this revision to the ADUs, the table of use regulations is also being updated to show that as well. So on the next slide, you'll see that it's been updated to add 1.14 is accessory dwelling units. So it's permitted by right in every zone that allows single-family homes. So it's A1, A2, GR, the form-based codes, the MUT, the general business, and that's it. And then the special permits, those are in the same districts as well, so it's its own separate. And that's a special permit through the planning board. The next proposed zoning amendment is the floodplain overlay district and the definitions as well. So section 8.1, the floodplain overlay district, the state just recently, I think at the end of last year, sent out to to everyone a new model that they want everyone to implement before July when the new FEMA maps come out. So this is to just be in compliance with the new model. I believe the board also has the draft model that the state sent out so that we can be in compliance with. I did not put all of it because in in the slide just because it's a long document and all the changes that we're doing are quite substantial. So there's a lot of changes that are occurring. So the document got much more longer, that section of the bylaw. But it's mainly to make sure that we're in compliance with the new FEMA flood maps and their new regulations. And the section of the definitions, which is section 2.2 of our bylaw, we're going to be adding in definitions that come from that new compliance model, so that that's part of the requirement as well, just so that that gets added in there as well.
Is that, is the document available like online?
Yes, yes. So on the planning board website, I have a tab that talks about the proposed zoning amendments. On the left-hand side at the bottom, you can click on those, and you can see all of the zoning amendments are there.
All right, great. Thanks, Danny. Any questions, please?
No?
Okay. Janice, any questions?
No, thank you.
All right. Yes.
Mr. Chair, through you, just to add, and Danny, thank you for the presentation. So all 5 articles will appear on the warrant. All are subject to a 2/3 vote, and all require a brief presentation by the town planner, planning board at town meeting. And I think just to highlight what Danny said, March 11th, I know that the planning board will be meeting and getting into real detail, and we'll have all of the information up in advance of town meeting. But Danny is an excellent resource for questions that members of the public may have on the bylaws.
Yeah,
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you.
Pauline has her hand
Oh,
up.
yes, Pauline?
Hi there, thanks for taking my question. 2 questions, Danny. On your very first slide about DPW and the realigning of the borders, did I hear correctly that that area will be zoned for general residence?
Yes, that is correct. It'll be zone general residence because that's what the existing zoning in that area adjacent to that is. You can't zone it anything else, or else it'd be considered spot zoning.
Sure. So is that down at the DPW site, or am I missing something?
That's the whole property that the DPW owns.
Oh, well, I guess we're looking forward to more fun on development. My other question has to do with the ADUs. Now, I live on Cambridge Street. I have a 1/4-acre parcel. I couldn't put an ADU on here if I wanted to, but I have a right to. Am I understanding that correctly?
That is correct.
Interesting. No restrictions, anything I wanted to put on?
I'm not sure I understand that question. What do you mean by that?
Well, fair enough. I don't know if I wanted to add on to my house, that's not an ADU. But if I wanted to build a tiny home, does that qualify as an ADU?
There are you'll see right up there. There is certain requirements of what is considered an ADU. So an ADU can be a separate building, a separate structure, or it can be attached. But if it's attached, it just needs to have a separate entrance, either directly from the outside or through the entry hall or corridor shared from the principal dwelling, sufficient to meet the requirements of the state building code for safe egress.
It's fascinating. I've read about this, I've heard about it, but I just don't know how we're going to put it on some of the lots on air. I'm not going to, but I just wanted to clarify. Thank you so much, and have a great evening, everyone.
Thanks, Pauline. Anything else? All right, great. Thanks, Danny.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
All right, moving on. Our next item on the agenda is our Department of Public Works report. Good evening, Dan.
Hey, good evening, Mr. Chair. Okay. Public Works tonight. I have 4 items. The first is execution of a contract. It's a drainage project, Bly Street drainage improvements. So our engineering division, Matt led the charge and designed this in-house and also involved permitting through conservation. So that's been completed. We bid the project and there were 23 bids. I think it's the most I've ever seen in a single bid since I've been here, besides a sub bid. So the lucky winner was at $134,870 CHB, and we've worked with them on a few small projects like this in the past. So this will be good to a project for them to work with us on, and we have that in our stormwater funding. So Just doing drainage improvement, well needed on Bly Street. Any questions, or otherwise we could vote to execute the.
Any questions?
I've driven through those giant puddles.
Yeah.
Not good.
I have no questions.
No questions, Janice? All right, I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion that the select board vote to execute the contract for the Bly Street Drainage Improvements Project in the amount of $134,870 for signature by the board.
Seconded.
Board Member Livingston, how do you vote?
Aye.
Board Member Tavares, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. It's passed.
Great, okay. The second item is another contract. This is the big project, the West Main Street over Nonocoicus Brook Bridge replacement. So we bid that, we advertised the bids late last year, mid-December. And since it's a complex project, we didn't open the bids until February 14th. We did have 4 bidders. Northern Construction Service is the low bidder, just under $4.8 million. The 2 other bidders were just over $5 million, and there was one who was up in the $7 million numbers. So this is actually within budget that we have to move forward with this project. I'm happy to say, and we've done a lot of work to get to this point, so I'm glad we're finally getting it forward. Just a few notes, kind of upcoming. So if moving forward with this project, I don't have a schedule yet from the contractor. That's part of the pre-construction process. I had initial conversation with him, and the idea is to be out there in the spring starting. And also, since it's complex and it's impactful to the town, there'll be one-way alternating traffic. We're going to have a public information forum. We've done this for some of our larger projects before. But Matt and I will put that on. We'll schedule that. We'll discuss what to expect, the traffic impacts, the schedule of the project. And we're also going to have a dedicated website for the project with bi-weekly updates. So we're planning that ahead. Long story short, is the execution of the contract for the $4,798,671 for signature by the board.
Chris, any questions?
No.
Janice, any questions?
I do.
Okay.
I'd like to know, do we already have all the material? And if not, where is the material coming from? And is, because I'd like to know now if we're gonna have a potential problem.
So we do not have the material. As part of the initial process with the contractor, he'll submit shop drawings that we review and approve, and he sources those from where he has to. I'm not aware of any long lead times now. I do know, you're right, there's a lot of uncertainty going on at the federal government, especially with tariffs. So if there becomes an issue, I'll definitely, bring that up the ladder, but I'm not aware of any right now.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I have no questions. Janice, would you like to make this motion?
Yes, I would, very much. I wish I was there, because I would be standing and cheering. I vote that the select board execute the contract for the West Main Street over Nonocoicus Brook Bridge Replacement Project in the amount of $4,798,671 for signature by the board.
Seconded.
Board Member Livingston, how do you vote?
Yes.
Board Member Tavares, how do you vote?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye.
Okay. There's 2 copies there, just, one for us, one for the contractor. Carly, you have this, right?
I do.
Okay. So the third item is, I believe it was last meeting, the board executed the order of taking for the easement at the West Main Street over Nonocoicus Brook Bridge. And this is assignment of the easement. And essentially all it is assigning National Grid rights to the easement because they're going to have their pipe within the easement. And so working with town council, grids council, we put together the assignment document, and also working with the property owners, they're aware of this. So the vote would be to execute the assignment of easement for the West Main Street over Nonocoicus Brook Bridge project.
Okay, Janice, any questions?
No.
Chris, any questions?
No.
I don't have any either. I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion to vote to execute the assignment of easement for the West Main Street over Nonocoicus Brook Bridge Replacement Project for signature by the board.
Seconded.
Board Member Tavares, how do you vote?
Aye.
Board Member Livingston, how do you vote?
Aye.
And Chair votes aye.
Okay. And the last item, Mr. Chair and board members, is the Balch Pond Dam, a brief update. So the town of Ayer, the DPW, we recently applied for a grant and received it to evaluate the Balch Pond Dam. And kind of going back, the dam is out of compliance. It's in poor condition. And so there, we do have DCR, they're the regulator of the dam. We do have items that we need to address due to the non-compliance of the dam. And one is to perform a dam removal feasibility study. So I just want to make the board aware we're doing this. I would emphasize the word study. So that the DPW was awarded a grant through DER to do the study for dam removal. It's going to be used as a planning tool to decide how we move forward in the future. Very high level. So right now we'll just decide, or study, okay, if the dam were to remove, what would happen upstream, what would happen with siltation, et cetera, and just know that. So we'll have that knowledge and then be able to decide, okay, do we do improvements to the dam or do we seek the path of dam removal? So that's kind of where that's at right now. It has an interesting history as a side note that the town's original water supply was from Balch Pond Dam through that spillway. There was a pump house as you head out toward the rotary and you hit the divider channel there. Right in the middle island is where the water pump house was. So that was the original purpose of the dam, but it's no longer used for that. So just notification there, an update on what we're doing for the dam.
All right. Any questions?
Significant hazard, I know there's the different kind of ratings. What rating is that, I guess, in the hierarchy?
In the hierarchy, it's the middle rating. I'm forgetting what the, I don't know if it's imminent. I think it's imminent hazard is the worst case. Significant hazard's a step higher than that.
Okay.
So yeah, we're in that, in the significant hazard, so that triggers emergency action plans, which we have one of those, and some other items. But it's not uncommon in the state. There's a lot of dams in poor condition, so DCR has actually really been getting on top of the regulation of them.
And is this the only one in town that's at this level, or is there?
We also have the Upper Flanagan Pond Dam. Yeah, so just north of Oak Ridge Drive, and we've been doing work on that one as well. We've just done a phase, what's called a phase 1 and a phase 2 through DCR's regulations, and that one also is a significant hazard. But that one's not in as bad as condition as Balch Pond. It's repairable. Well, Balch Pond's repairable too, but Upper Flanagan's in better condition.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Dan.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Moving on, our next item is the town manager's report. Mr. Pombriand.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, good evening. In terms of the administrative update, you have the warrants in your packet that were reviewed and approved since the select board last met on February 18th. In terms of a brief administrative update, as of today, I've completed all of the union contract negotiations. Our focus, as it is every year, is largely on the budget and town meeting preparations, which I'll touch upon on one of my other items. Just to remind the public and the board that the rate review committee will appear before the select board on March 18th for the public hearing for the FY26 water, sewer, and stormwater rates. There'll be a presentation and recommendations made by the committee on March 18th. Also wanted to just update the board that my colleagues from Harvard, Groton, and Shirley, along with Ayer, we've applied for a regional energy efficiency manager grant that the state's offering. It's a fully funded 3-year energy efficiency expert, if you will, that would look at both all of the school buildings in all 4 towns and all of the town buildings for energy efficiency opportunities. It's a competitive regional grant. we stand a good chance to get it. There's no cost impacts to the town, and it's a 3-year project, and then it's done. So it's not like we're have to assume that position or add it. So we'll keep the board updated as we move forward on that. So unless there's any administrative questions from the board, I'll move into my action items for this evening. The first one is there is a request from St. Mary's Church in your packet for a one-day beer and wine license for March 15th, 2025 from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. for their St. Patrick's Day dinner social to raise money for the parish. And you have all the information in your packet. They'll also have a 50-50 raffle, so recommending that the board authorize the one-day beer and wine license for St. Mary's Parish for March 15th, 2025 from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m.
Chris, any questions?
No, they do this every year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Janice, any questions?
No.
Great.
Okay, I will make a motion for a one-day beer and wine. Let's see, there we go. Permit for St. Mary's Parish on March 15th, 2025 from 4 until 9 p.m.
Seconded.
Okay. Board Member Tavares, how do you vote?
Aye.
Board Member Livingston, how do you vote?
Aye.
And Chair says aye. It's approved.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chair, if there's not objection, I'd ask the IT coordinator to just join us at the table for the next item, which the board has in its packet, a proposal for the upgrade of town computers. And this issue first presented itself in December. Mr. Goodwin brought it to our attention, and I did mention it to the Capital Planning Committee just briefly at the time. But just to frame the issue, as the board knows, IT has been in transition, and we're happy to have Max, who hit the ground running in November. And as the board is aware, the capital process generally starts the end of October, beginning of November. Late into December, Max brought to the town's attention that with the changeover of Windows 10 to Windows 11, which will happen in October of 2025, that there could be, at that time we weren't sure of the scope, but there could be multiple computers that the town, when that upgrade happens, because of their age, they would no longer support the Windows 11, but more importantly, would not support any of the security updates, which would pose a significant problem as Max spends a lot of his time making sure that firewall stays solid. So when this came up in December, I asked Max to analyze the entire town's inventory of all of the computers, and he had till February 1st to do that, which he completed on time. And we weren't sure, what the scope of how many computers would be impacted. Make a long story short, as you see in the memo, there are 12 town laptops and 27 desktop computers for a total of 39 computers that come October of 2025, they'll no longer, with the Windows 11 conversion, be able to support the security upgrades, which poses a significant concern to the town. Now, historically, before the pandemic, previous IT had a periodic update of computers through capital each year, and that has obviously fell off the plan. Max is, we've met several times, is fully prepared to reinstitute that, so we are constantly staying current as we move forward. Additionally, through Max's efforts along with Chief Gill, both of them have applied for a state information technology grant in the total amount for the computers. It's a competitive grant that comes up every so often. We're waiting. We don't have a definitive date yet when we will hear, but fingers crossed, hopefully if we get the grant, this problem will be solved. However, what we're proposing for your consideration this evening is if we do not get the grant, or we only get part of the grant, we will still have to upgrade all of the systems and would need an appropriation for that. So what I'm respectfully recommending to the board is for the board to authorize up to $70,000 from capital stabilization, subject to town meeting approval on April 28th as part of the FY '26 capital plan. Now, obviously, like other projects, if we receive the grant, that would be withdrawn from town meeting. If we receive only part of the grant, we would deduct that from that amount. But we want to be in a position that come after town meeting, whether we get the grant or this, that we can begin to move to update the computers. I do just point out that as of December 31st, the balance in capital stabilization is just over 4.3 million. Also, where we're late in the process, I'm not a big fan of mid-year capital, requests. I do fully respect the capital process. However, this was a unique year in that we have a new IT coordinator. It wasn't until the end of December and not until February we knew the whole scope. So I'm recommending that the board consider voting authorizing to include this under the capital plan, subject to town meeting approval. Or if it's the will of the board, and I know that Selectman Tavares is the chair of capital planning, if the board would like us to go back to capital planning and then come back here, whatever the pleasure of the board is. Did I miss anything? Or do you want to add anything?
I have one thing.
Yeah.
So we did find out today that we should hear by mid-April at the latest.
Okay.
So if we haven't heard by then we can kind of assume that we probably didn't get it. But Heather from the police department reached out to me today and told me that mid-April looks like we should know. It's like a do or die day. So.
Okay, great, thank you. Any questions?
So I assume like the laptops cover what like police have in their vehicles?
So
or-
there's the fire department has quite a few. So the laptops, the biggest thing is the ones that connect to our internal network. Like if it's something like, no offense, but if it's something that you brought in, like we're not really worried about that. It's things that connect to internal networks, like my laptop, my personal one that I use for the job here, like Zoom and stuff. That is also on this list. So it's all the computers that are on here are ones that attach to our internal networks that can cause the most damage.
Janice, any questions?
I don't.
Okay. I don't either. It's pretty
Yeah.
straightforward.
I mean, I would just say that, IT security, I think, is one of our top priorities for me personally. And, speaking as the chair of capital, I mean, I have no issue with us just handling that now.
And then I'm going to guess just going forward, we'll get back in the rotation
That's-
of
Yeah.
Speaking with
upgrading.
Robert, that's definitely the plan is to start going in that direction again where we can replace a few and that way we don't end up in this situation again, hopefully.
Excellent. Okay, I'll take a motion then.
Okay, I'll make a motion for up to $70,000 from capital stabilization, subject to town meeting approval for the upgrades of town computers.
Second.
Okay, Board Member Tavares, how do you vote?
Aye.
Board Member Livingston, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair says aye. Great. Thank you, Max.
Thanks, thank you.
Thanks, Max.
And thank you to the board. So that will appear under the capital article for transfer from capital stabilization for town meeting. I will also make sure that the memo that was submitted, which also was copied to the FinCom and to capital, goes on the capital webpage for further information. Lastly, just briefly, the FY '26 budget update and town meeting update as we're approaching that final stretch. I just want to point out, again, the budget webpage, which is on the town's webpage, has all of the relevant FY '26 budget materials. There are two. We're working on draft 3 right now of the budget, which will be the final version, subject to any final edits by either the Select Board or FinCom. So both of those are on there, as well as all of the other information. The draft 3, which we anticipate to be the final minus any last minute changes, will be transmitted to the select board and the FinCom and posted on the budget webpage this Friday, March 7th, because, Carly's got the FY26 budget page up. Because next Wednesday, March 12th at 6 p.m. will be the public budget forum, where we'll go through draft 3, the final draft of the budget highlights. It'll be a joint meeting of the FinCom and the Select Board, and all town departments will be present, and the public can attend in person or on Zoom. And it's a great opportunity, I think, to answer any questions or take input from the public on the budget. In terms of the town meeting update, I just want to point out that the deadline per the town's budget calendar for warrant articles and citizens petitions is 12 p.m. on Friday, March 28th. The select board is scheduled to meet on April 1st to review and approve the warrant. I believe that the plan is for the FinCom to meet in advance to vote their recommendations, but not worst case scenario, but there is a slight chance in previously they may join you for joint session on that. Once approved, Friday, April 4th, we will publicly post the warrant, including on the town's webpage. It will go to be printed and mailed to all households. And I gave a memo at your last meeting on February 18th on the topics. As of today, there looks to be 31 articles. The average is usually 35, not that that matters, but just to give it sort of scope. There'll be the 5 zoning bylaw articles that Mr. Ruiz talked about tonight and that the planning board will take up on March 11th. We anticipate 4 CPC articles, community preservation articles, the 2 standard ones they have every year, and then 1 for the Ayer Affordable Housing Trust and 1 for the library roof. There'll be the 3 union contracts, DPW sergeants and fire. The stormwater enterprise article, which will be with the other enterprise articles, but will be new for this year. There is a home rule petition, as I mentioned, under development by the library and the library board of trustees to make some changes to their act of incorporation, and the library director is planning to come on the 18th with a brief update and overview on that. Of course, the budget is a big piece, including the 2 school articles, and the deadline for citizens petitions will also be March 28th. So outside of that, then all of the sort of standard articles that we have every year. I'll be speaking with the town moderator about using a consent agenda again. Seemed to work well like last year. In other words, the standard annual articles, again, if somebody has a question, they have every right to ask that question. But if we can town meeting can move those by consent, it makes the meeting time more focused on the substantive issues. And I hope to, for your March 18th meeting, to have a general sense of what that will look like. I'll talk with the moderator. And then very shortly, like we have the budget webpage, as in past, we'll activate a town meeting webpage that will have all of the article information, and we'll do the article of the day and all of those things for the outreach. But the big takeaway, I think, for everybody is there are no bad questions. Any questions or concerns, let my office know, let me know, let Carly know. If you need hard copies of something, we want people to have the information and to have their questions answered. So we're in pretty good shape. So with that concludes my report, unless there's any questions from members of the board. I do appreciate your consideration tonight.
I'm done.
All right, thank you. Moving on to new business or select board member questions. Janice?
Hi, thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'd like to make sure that the public is aware, especially for those who are not on Facebook, as to the latest update as to what's been going on. So it was posted to the Save Neshoba Save Lives Facebook page by Audra Sprague, who is a member of the working group. I hope I said her last name right. I think I said it wrong. And this has also been confirmed by Representative Margaret Scarsdale, okay? That the governor wishes to disband the working group now. And this, as the working group has indicated, they don't want it disbanded because there's still things to do. And then once again, no one can seem to reach the governor. So it was put out, and that's why I'm sharing it tonight, is that to call Governor Healy's office. You can leave messages Monday through Friday from 9 to 5 at area code 617-725-4005. I'll repeat, 617-725-4005. And ask her to not disband the Neshoba Working Group, to secure the Neshoba Valley Medical Center Hospital building and land in Ayer from Apollo so that UMass emergency room could be located there. Remind her that the infrastructure is already built in that area, okay? To also that our fire chiefs have requested the $9.1 million funding to cover the increased costs of the hospital closures. It hasn't been sent yet. And any other story that has impacted you that you think will help get the message across. I've called, I've posted it to my page. I tagged Senator Eldridge and Representative Stina. So that's kind of where it stands at the moment. Once again, we're being ignored. She has indicated that she wants to run for re-election, and if you want to run for re-election, you need to speak to your constituents. And this area voted for her. There are also people that did not vote for her, but it doesn't matter because the moment she took office, we were all her constituents. And this is an emergency, and she cannot ignore us, and this has got to stop. So, again, people are being asked, so I hope that everyone who watches this and gets this information will pick up the phone tomorrow and let Governor Healy know that we will not be abandoned in the Neshoba Valley region. We will not be forgotten in the Neshoba Valley region, and that we have long memories. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Janice.
Well said.
Well said.
Yep. Did the letter go out?
So, Mr. Chair, to that, and Selectman Livingston, well said, and thank you for putting that out. So the letter, I have incorporated the changes per the Select Board, and Carly has the letter for signature, and we'll get Janice's signature, and it's ready to go. And as you know, the board knows, the letter touches upon a lot of the points that Selectman Livingston just brought up. But it's important just to reemphasize, it's necessary that the public contact the governor, and that input is needed.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, our next item is approval of the meeting minutes from February 18th, 2025. Any changes?
I saw nothing.
Okay,
I saw nothing either.
okay, I'll take a motion.
Go ahead.
Okay. I make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from February 18th, 2025.
Seconded.
Okay, Board Member Tavares, how do you vote?
Aye.
Board Member Livingston, how do you vote?
Aye.
Chair says aye, and they're approved. And then Janice?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I make a motion that the Select Board move into executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30 Alpha, Section 21 Alpha, Exemption Number 2, Non-Union Personnel, ratification of benefits and payroll manager contract, ratification of facilities director contract,
Right spot.
ratification of water and sewer superintendent contract, and exemption number 3, collective bargaining strategy, ratification of DPW union contract. And that the board do not reconvene in an open session, but adjourn from executive session.
Seconded.
Board Member Livingston, how do you vote?
Aye.
Board Member Tavares, how do you vote?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, and we are now in executive session. Thank you, everybody.